What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Power Play with CJ. Now that it's official, all 7 Canadian teams are missing the playoffs this year. It definitely something not a lot of people saw coming, particularly myself, as I had Montreal as one of the East's best teams entering the season. Obviously, injuries to Carey Price and ineffectiveness throughout the lineup, kind of derailed that. But I look at it. I think people are overblowing it. Yes, it's a tough hit, considering how much money comes out of Canada for the league. But you know what? I think people in those 7 markets, I don't really know how to explain this, but like Toronto was missing the playoffs one way or the other. You knew that going into the season. I don't think Montreal and the other 5 Canadian teams missing the playoffs affect how they're going to view it. So I think every market, you can't just generalize them as Canadian teams. I think it comes down to a market-to-market thing. And, the weird thing with teams missing the playoffs is whenever a Boston team misses the playoffs, I always kind of not hop on a bandwagon, but there's always like that one team, I watch a little more closely, for all sports. And I think that's going to be the thing there. And then, hey, the people in Canada still have the Raptors. So that's something to hold on to. Kyle Lowry and DeMar DeRozan, those guys can make a run at the Eastern Conference title. Definitely something to keep an eye on, and that could be a saving grace. Help build basketball in Canada. It's Toronto. The Raptors going to playoff run the year Canada has no hockey in the playoff. Hell of a story. But looking at it from an outsider's perspective, I think you look the teams that'll be back next year. Montreal will be in the playoffs because they're going to change a few things up. Carey Price won't have as many injuries as he did. And that'll I believe sort itself out. I think Calgary's a good chance of getting back. If they can solidify their goaltending situation, a big if, but there's definitely some goalies on the market that they can kick the tires on. Toronto will be exciting next year because they're going to land Austin Matthews, Jimmy Vesey, and Steven Stamkos. Just ask them. But no, seriously, I think Toronto, between the prospects, in the organization, and the whole scale changes they can make, they'll be definitely a lot more watchable. And I think fans also knew this year that it was going to be a long year, so they kind of signed off on it, knowing that there might actually, for the first time in a long time, have a light at the end of the tunnel. So definitely a little thing there for the fans in the T-Dot. Ottawa, we've heard the ownership group talk about the sweeping changes that are going to happen. If I was betting right now, I'd say they're not in the playoffs next year. I gut feeling. Now, maybe those full-scale changes lead to some really good players going up. Ottawa, I don't know, but definitely, see how that works itself out. Winnipeg, Vancouver, and Edmonton. The bottom 3 are Calgary, Winnipeg, Vancouver, and Edmonton. I already talked about Calgary. I think they have a good chance of bouncing back next year. Winnipeg, between the prospects in the organization, the young players on the roster, and who they might land in the draft, they'll be a team to watch next year. Vancouver, I think last year was a fluke, and people didn't want to admit that. Where making the playoffs, I think they got a lot of young talent in the organization. I'm a huge Bo Horvath fan. Love Jared McCann. Like to see a little more out of Jake Virtanen, other than suspensions. So see where that goes. Thatcher Demko will not be up next year, even if he does leave BC. Give him his time to develop. He's your goalie of the future. He land a top 5 pick this year and go from there. But Vancouver will not be in the playoffs next year, which leads me to my favorite team to lambast, even though my friend Connor McDavid plays for them, the Edmonton Oilers. Neil Yakupov is asked out, and they've done a piss-poor job at, obviously, this never-ending rebuilding process. So, honestly, if they were in the playoffs next year, I wouldn't be as shocked, given that they have all that talent, maybe it comes together, but I'd also be just as not shocked if they had been a 1 overall pick in 2017, too. Just one of those things. Edmonton's gonna do Edmonton. That's one thing you can take to the bank. So we'll see how this situation sorts itself out with the Canadian teams out of the playoffs. But hey, you got the Raptors, and if you fans in Canada want, let me know, Canadian fans. I'll actually talk about the Raptors throughout the playoffs. Make that like a Power Play Talks basketball, just to keep the fans in Toronto and throughout the great nation of Canada intrigued. If that's what you want, but let me know. Anyway, that's all I got. This episode of the Power Play with CJ. Stay tuned for more episodes through the season and beyond. Later, guys.